Hey folks, this is another installment of our Setting Up Shop series. We have been going through the planes, and so if you remember, we talked about the trying plane, or joiner, some people call that, the purposes of this tool. We talked before that about the foreplane, which is, of course, the plane you use before everything else. It's really a coarsely set plane for removing a lot of wood. But today we're going to talk about the smoothing plane. Obviously, it's a pretty familiar little guy. These things are generally about 8 inches long. They've got roughly a 2-inch wide iron, the ones that we see all the time. There are slightly different variations and forms of the smoothing plane, but this is the most common, especially for us Americans. We see these all the time. I want to start by reading from Moxon what his very thorough description of the purpose of the smoothing plane is. He says, "The smoothing plane must have its iron set very fine because its office is to smooth the work from those irregularities the foreplane made." And that's it. So, Moxon seems to have, he was resting on the idea that everyone kind of knew what this was for and how to use it. We get really obsessed these days with our perfect shavings, our nice, Gossamer shavings that we take with these, and how to adjust them and all this stuff. But all Moxon said was, this is just for removing those irregularities from the foreplane. So let's talk about this in use. So these are all double iron planes that we have. It makes it so much easier for dealing with any kind of grain, but mostly squirrely grain and stuff like that. Single iron planes really require a lot more fussiness. The tightness of the mouth is much more important. But with these are double iron planes. So start by putting the cap iron on. And what I want to point out is that for like the foreplane, and to a lesser degree the trying plane, but it doesn't matter all that much how closely you have the cap iron set to the edge. You can set it pretty far back and it doesn't affect things in a terribly adverse way. With this one, with the smoothing plane, you want the cap iron right down to just leave a sliver of shiny surface of the cutting iron showing. You want it right down pretty close to that edge. And what that will do is that will allow any shavings coming up to immediately be broken. It'll start the curl so that they don't tear out from the board. The closer you can get it, the nicer the shavings will be and the nicer the surface will be left. So we have these together. Just slide it in there, and I'll use my fingers down here. I can feel that coming down. So as long as you're just bumping into there, even if your iron is really sharp, which is what you want with this tool, you want a very nicely honed edge. As long as I'm just letting it slide straight down, I'm not going to cut my fingers. It's, of course, we say this over and over, but it's when you slide sideways that you're going to get cut. So as long as that's just bumping into my fingers, I'm fine. So then we take the wedge, and again, usually just a regular old claw hammer is the easiest for adjusting these. So I can tell right there that my iron has come down a bit. So I'm going to back that up again. Okay. So that's how I feel, right? I'm not doing this because I don't know what I'd see. Maybe a little light, maybe a little iron down below. A couple things you want to look for as you adjust this. You want to make sure that the iron is sitting squarely in the mouth. You don't want it skewed so that one side of it is down a bit. That'll leave tracking in your board. It'll leave like a hard line where one side digs more. So if you need to adjust it, you just tap the iron on either side here to straighten it up. A lot of these old planes have some room for that kind of adjustment. There's sometimes a good bit of slop in there. So this initial setting might start out with some trial and error. So for the first pass, you kind of want to make sure that you're not going to be digging in. You kind of want to make sure that the iron is retracted so that you just get either air or a very light shaving. Okay, this is a board that I four-plane, by the way, so I can feel the texture in there that Moxon says this is the tool to remove that. So that's a pretty light shaving. I kind of like that. If I'm going for a final smoothing on this, I might actually want to go a little bit lighter. But a couple different things with the smoothing plane. This is not the tool for straightening a board. So the shortness is really an advantage here, in that you can really hit any areas that you just want to make smooth, right? Those planes have already straightened the board, have already flattened it. So now I can take this and skew it to the side. I can do whatever I want with it. Sometimes I'll start in an area and I'll just kind of call it airplaning, right? You kind of come in for a landing and then you take off again. But a good part of the trick of it is that you're not just kind of creeping along. It's a quick little motion, and the shavings just want to spit themselves out when you move quickly like that. So let's see if I can go even finer with that. Whenever you adjust it, either in tightening or in backing, there's also a strike button up here I could hit, but I like hitting back there. With this one, it's clear that that's mostly where it's taken hits over the years. But every time you adjust it, whether it's tightening or deepening the cut or backing the cut, you always want to give the wedge at least another tap, because both of those operations will loosen the wedge a little bit. So I've backed it just a little. Ooh, that one's pretty light. So, at this point, what I'm doing is I'm removing those ridges that the four-plane left, and that's pretty much, that's pretty buttery smooth actually right now. And I could do this all day. That's kind of fun. So the same goes for, so this is like a flat sawn board, and I did not get much in the way of tear out, so I was lucky with that one. Oftentimes this is like a quarter sawn 200-year-old piece of hemlock. And this stuff is amazing. There's like 30 rings per inch or something in this. But as you're planing, remember, you're just looking to make the surface smooth and ready for finish. You're not trying to do any more than that. So again, this tool does not take big coarse shavings. This is designed just for light shavings, a quick, few passes over a surface to get it ready for a finish, and that's all it does. These things are around here. They're easy to come by. It's good to have one or more of them. So if you come upon a nice little hoard of them at an antique store, grab a few. The irons sometimes are interchangeable between the bodies. They're super useful. They make a beautiful surface. They're fun to play with and adjust and challenge yourself to see, how light a shaving you can get. And they work great. They work just as well as any modern equivalent. So pick yourself up a smoothing plane or two and get them sharpened and dialed in.